missiles on Japanese soil, and fury in Beijing and Moscow. The US is deploying its Typhon system, capable of striking 2,000 kilometers deep, rattling memories of Cold War standoffs. China warns of losing the trust of Asia. Russia threatens military technical measures. Is Japan's pacifist era ending? And is the region on the brink? China and Russia are expressing serious concerns as the United States prepares to deploy its sophisticated Typhon missile system to Japan for the first time. The deployment, scheduled for joint military exercises next month, has triggered sharp criticism from both nations, who view it as a direct threat to regional stability.
Beijing firmly opposed the U.S. deployment of the Typhon intermediate-range missile system in Asian countries. The deployment of the system in Japan will further undermine the legitimate security interests of other countries. The U.S. and Japan must not introduce the Typhon missile system.
Russia's response was equally stern. Foreign Affairs spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said a day earlier,
"We view this as another destabilizing step as part of Washington's course toward ramping up the potential of ground-based shorter and intermediate-range missiles. Deploying Typhon missiles in regions near Russia poses a direct strategic threat to Russia."
The Russian warning carried an implicit threat, with Zakharova further stating,
"If Japan does not rethink its decision on the Typhon's deployment, Russia will have to take appropriate military technical measures. We will assume that the entire responsibility for the further degradation of the situation in the region rests on the Japanese side."
Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun escalated the rhetoric even further.
"We urge Japan to take a hard look at its history of aggression, follow the path of peaceful development, act prudently in military and security areas, and refrain from further losing the trust of its Asian neighbors and the international community."
The Typhon system represents a significant escalation in America's military presence in the Pacific. According to Kyodo News reports, the Japan Ground Self-Defense Force and the US Marine Corps will conduct large-scale field training with China as the notional enemy during the September exercises. The system will be stationed at the US Iwakuni base in Yamaguchi Prefecture before being withdrawn at the exercise's conclusion. What makes this deployment particularly concerning for Beijing is the system's impressive range and versatility. The missile system can fire Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles and SM-6 surface-to-air missiles, with a striking range of up to 2,000 kilometers. This capability would bring parts of the Taiwan Strait and eastern coastal regions of mainland China directly within its strike range. The US Army Pacific confirmed the deployment in an emailed statement to Newsweek on Friday, explaining that the Typhon system, also known as the mid-range capability, would participate in Exercise Resolute Dragon 25, scheduled from September 11th to 25 across Japanese islands. The Army noted that
this deployment will strengthen the capacity of the US and Japan to deter aggression and support regional stability.
Military analysts are drawing historical parallels to Cold War confrontations. Zhu Feng, Dean of the School of International Studies at Nanjing University, compared current US and Japanese actions to the confrontational missile deployments by the US and the Soviet Union during the Cold War.
Tokyo and Washington are converging on the issue of containing China. The two countries are explicitly strengthening both their willingness and capability to prepare for military intervention in the Taiwan Strait.
Timothy Heath, a senior international defense researcher at the US-based RAND Corporation, offered an analysis of the strategic implications, noting that
the deployment shows that the US continues to aid its ally Japan in strengthening its defenses against potential Chinese attack. China's most vulnerable could be ships operating in disputed waters near the Senkakus if Japan deploys the missile close to the islands.
This deployment marks a dramatic shift in Japan's post-war military posture. the country is simultaneously developing its own long-range strike capabilities, with the Defense Ministry announcing plans on August 29th to deploy domestically produced long-range missiles to military bases across southern Japan by late fiscal 2025. These anti-ship missiles, upgraded versions of the Type 12 surface-to-ship guided missile with a 1,000-kilometer range, represent what officials call Japan's new counterstrike capability. This marks a radical departure from the exclusively defensive posture Japan maintained throughout the post-war era, made possible only by the 2022 revision of national security documents. The accelerated timeline reflects growing urgency. The Defense Ministry moved up deployment dates because development of the domestic missiles went off without a hitch, and US intelligence reports suggested China will possess the capability to attack Taiwan in fiscal 2027. However, this military transformation faces significant challenges. Local communities near proposed missile sites have already expressed concerns. As one Defense Ministry source noted,
obtaining the consent of local communities close to the bases where the missiles will be deployed may not be easy.
Civic groups in Kumamoto have voiced fears that their communities will become targets during military conflicts. The broader implications extend beyond individual weapon systems. This marks the Typhon system's third deployment in the Western Pacific, following installations in the Philippines since April last year and recent exercises in Australia. The pattern suggests a comprehensive US strategy to establish missile capabilities across the first island chain. Looking ahead, China may respond with its own military demonstrations. Intelligence suggests Beijing could unveil new weapons capable of striking US military bases in Japan during its September 3rd military parade, commemorating the 80th anniversary of victory over Japanese aggression. Experts predicted that China will probably respond by expanding its air defense network to include HQ-29 missiles, and may add more intermediate-range ballistic missiles as deterrents as well.